Hello, oodles and fanoodles. I'm back. Another little hiatus. Had a lot of stuff to do, a lot of little odds and ends to take care of, work, wanting to kill myself, the usual, because winter does not want to end. Anyway, we are back. I thought I'd do a fun little video. I went down to Toronto over the weekend, stayed a couple of days, and had a wonderful time buying a shit ton of books. I got a mega haul of books, and honestly, it was extremely satisfying in a certain way, but also very depressing because of the contrast between where I live, Montreal, and Toronto, where pretty much at this point there's no used bookstores in Montreal. I think there might be one that's still open quite a ways away from center. There's one back in Laval for those of you who are from Quebec. There's one like off the highway, but it's a tiny little English section. So I think one of the main reasons we're kind of losing out is, of course, there's the natural fact that less people read these days long form content. A lot of people who do read books, they don't really read fantasy, especially. A lot of people are going more online with things like Kindle, as well as just there's cool stuff like Wattpad and other sites where people are just putting their books online now, or just making Amazon only ebooks. And so we're not seeing as much paperback and of course hardcover novels being created. That's why in some ways I think it might be a positive thing, because we're getting much more premium styled books, sort of like Brandon Sanderson's crazy Kickstarter that went up to like $42 million. So there's still interest in books, it's just not the same, and used bookstores are kind of going down, especially here. Although again, I think Montreal is a bit unique in the sense of, because we're a French-speaking province, we are not bringing in English novels at the same pace. We still have Indigo here, which is doing very well from what I've heard, but that's new books and that's fine, but they're really expensive. And I'm never going to say that an author doesn't deserve to get a lot more money from a book. I think it's a huge creative work and we should spend a good amount, but it is kind of sad. There's a certain thing to used books, being able to get these used and loved books that people just kind of keep flowing around. And of course there is a pricing thing. As much as I do want authors to get a lot of money, if a book costs $25-30, that's it. Like, I'm not gonna go buy a ton of books at $30. I did this huge haul, so I went to Toronto, and Toronto still has a ton of used bookstores. Just within the center, like you can walk for, let's say, an hour-ish, and maybe a little bit longer, and in that hour-ish walk, you're gonna hit like 10, 12 used bookstores. And not small, they have large collections, especially of fantasy, which is really phenomenal. So I went to like Doug Miller used books, which was pretty fun, had a huge collection, although it's a disaster in there. For those of you who are from Toronto, might be visiting, I'd still recommend going, but the guy really does not keep his stuff organized or clean. There was Legos everywhere, Lego boxes, tons of boxes, things like whole shelves blocked off, and it's double stacked, like one behind the other, and it's super difficult to work your way through. So it seemed like someone who's just overwhelmed and didn't bother organizing his stuff, maybe needs help, I don't know. We did go to 2 BMV used bookstores, which were really cool. They did have some new books and other stuff, comics and whatnot, manga. Super cool. Really hard to find light novels, by the way. I've wanted to try to get into them and I just can't find. But BMV was great, especially there's 2 of them not far away from each other, like a 15-minute difference, not even, in walking. And one of them was just huge, like really great selection. I got tons of books. I think we went to only 4 used bookstores, so 2 BMVs, Doug Miller, and another one whose name I'm forgetting actually, unfortunately, which had a decent selection as well. But there were still so many more. I just didn't have time to keep going. It's going to be like a thing now. We're going to go down to Toronto every once in a while and just get more books. So I got 23 here. 23 books. Some are series. Some I've read before, but many years ago. And as I've mentioned before, for those of you who might be new, I used to own 1,200 books. I got rid of them all. I was traveling. I was moving a lot. I didn't want to keep most of my books, so I only kept those I really, 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 really loved. And others that I considered, let's say, good or great, but like I know I'm not going to reread them often or need them. I pretty much got them on Kindle, but now that I have a little bit more space and I'm with my partner and everything's going well, I figure, you know what, some of these that I really enjoy, I'm going to get again. So, for example, first series I got, this is from C.S. Friedman, so it starts with Black Sun Rising, When True Night Falls, Crown of Shadows. I forget the name of the actual series itself. Where is the name of this series? Black Sun. Oh. Huh. I don't even know. Coldfire Trilogy. The Coldfire Trilogy. So this series is super, super cool. I got it for cheap, only $4.99. I got to take all these stickers off. I hate it. I hate it when they put stickers on the damn books. So this series, super, super cool. Kind of dystopian. It's fantasy, but there's elements of sci-fi in it because of where everything actually comes from and the kind of the lore and history of things. Super, super great. I remember really enjoying this. I have a fragmented memory of certain bits and pieces of the story, enough that I'm really going to enjoy rereading it, and I'm actually pretty happy to get them in physical copy again. I got myself 2 new books, actually. So this is the Lotus Kingdoms. Super, super nice covers. This is actually, I mean, I don't know when this was made. Let's see. Book 1 was done in... It's almost impossible always sometimes to find. 2017, so it's actually relatively new comparatively. That's one thing I will say when you go to used bookstores. It is kind of hard to find newer-ish novels. They tend to be the older novels. You're looking at 10, 15 years old, which is fortunate or unfortunate depending on where your tastes lie. But so I was kind of happy on this one. It looks pretty cool. I mean, the cover's pretty much what drew me in right away, but it does seem to have a pretty interesting magic political stance going on. The Stone in the Skull, The Red Stained Wings. It's good titles, good covers. I like the way it makes me feel on the inside. I also got The War of Flowers by Tad Williams. So I've already done a review of Tad Williams' books. So I did The Dragon Boat Chair, and I will be continuing the rest of the series. I thought I'd get another book from this author. I do think I've read this a really long time ago, maybe like 15 years ago. And I want to check it again. It sounds pretty fun. It's sort of a older dude gets pulled into a fantasy world, and there's, I think, a lot to do with music in it in terms of like how the magic works, or at least in some aspect. I could be wrong on that one. So just move this out of the way. So Coldfire Trilogy, the Lotus Trilogy, got the War of Flowers from Tad Williams. I also got An Ember in the Ashes, kind of cool cover by Saga. I hope I'm saying that right. This is pretty interesting. It kind of follows along a young girl who is effectively a slave in this kingdom that seems to be... I don't know why they're slaves, actually. It doesn't really explain. But it seems kind of cool. I'm going to check it out. I've got The Phoenix Unchained by Mercedes Lackey and James Mallory. This is actually another trilogy set in the same world as the Obsidian trilogy. So I've already done a review. I don't know if I reviewed all 3 books or not. I know I reviewed book 1. I'll check to see after if I've reviewed all 3, but effectively I have begun reviewing that series. I really enjoy it. It's simple, clean. It's not trying to be more than it is. It's high fantasy in the sense of you have your elves, you have your dragons, you have your demons, you have your normal stuff, but it's got a lot of elements that make it fun to read. It's YA without being YA, and so I am kind of hoping this will be something similar. It does go, I think it's happening hundreds of years later, so it is quite a time gap between this trilogy and that one. Kind of cool. Another Mercedes Lackey book, although she did do this one with Larry Dixon, who I have not read or heard of any other books by this person. So Owl Flight and Owl Night. It's actually book 1 and book 3. I am going to order book 2. I could not find it at used bookstore. I read this a long time ago as well. I enjoyed it a lot. This is another thing. Like, Mercedes Lackey just seems to do really, really good, simple books. You're not going to read them and be like, oh my God, this is the most incredible story I've ever read. It's really more so of a simple, pleasant read, which has good elements. There's never anything bad about it. There's no characters that make you want to shoot yourself in the face. It's really just a classic, good quality fantasy series. That's what Mercedes Lackey seems to do really best. And Owl Flight, so this is part of the Owl trilogy, is really, really fun. It's actually based off in the Valdemar series, the Heralds. So for those of you who haven't heard of that, there's a huge lore in this series. There's quite a few books, all based in a world where the heralds are sort of usually the ones in power. And heralds are people who kind of get chosen and bonded to these magical unicorns, horses, effectively. But then they can like telepathically speak to their bonded mate. And they kind of are the good helpers who go around the world doing good things and good deeds for people. This main character in this book is not a herald, but he is part of that world and is a sorcerer of another kind. It's very interesting. It was pretty fun. What else do I got here? I got The Black Wolves by Kate Elliott. Really cool cover. This is very much samurai style. You basically have a guy who used to be a captain in one of the groups called the Black Wolves. His king was killed. He was basically disgraced, and now he's being asked to come back to protect the new king, the young king, from some other stuff. So seems interesting. Lots of intrigue. Could be fun. I don't know. I went with the cover on this one, I'll be honest. Glenn Cook, Chronicles of Black Company. This is actually the first 3 novels in the Black Company series. I've never read this series. I've never really taken the time to get to look at it, but I've seen these books to one degree or another pretty much everywhere all the time ever since I was younger. I've always been curious. This seems like it's a very, very gritty sort of David Gemmell styled darkness with a hint of Malazan thrown in. So if it does have that mix, I think I'll be very happy because I love the Malazan books and I definitely love David Gemmell. Really, really great. So we'll see how that goes. Got the In the Red Lord's Reach, by Phyllis Eisenstein. This is definitely an older style book. I really don't know much about it. This guy basically is a minstrel who can teleport. And this ability causes quite a bit of issues for him, as far as I can see from the little synopsis on the back. I have read The Sorcerer's Son. Where are you? I don't know where it is on my bookcase. I've read The Sorcerer's Son by Phyllis Eisenstein. That's another older novel. Really great, super interesting. I'm going to reread it again and do a review of it because it has one of the most interesting build-ups to a story. There's not much happening. You are effectively in a castle the whole time as this boy grows to manhood and is learning how to be, I forget the terminology utilized in the book, but effectively like a demonologist. He's manipulating and summoning demons. And it's all part of another plan, another thing that he's trying to accomplish while he's there with this bad person. Very, very fun. I would definitely recommend it. Gonna do a review of it soon. So what else do we have? I did get the Saga of the First King by R.A. Salvatore. So there are 3 books in this. You have The Highwayman, the Bear, and The Dame. I think there actually might be more. Let me see. Oh, The Ancient. I think I might actually be missing a book. Anyway, I don't know which one is the second one. I think The Ancient might actually be the second one. I didn't get it, so that I will need to rectify. But this is another series that I read quite a while back, and I do recall it being very, very fun. For those of you who, of course, read R.A. Salvatore, which you have not, that's kind of weird. Doradin is sort of one of the seminal fantasy characters in the world. It's one of the most famous. If you like R.A. Salvatore and her style in those books, you're going to enjoy this. It's very much a mix of the Chosen One plus fighting back against tyrants and people who are not being very nice to the lowly folk, and they want to help them out. So very cool. There's also, of course, big baddies that need to be taken out, as usual. Next book, L.E. Modesitt Jr.'s The Magic of Recluse, the first book in the Recluse series. I either read all the Recluse novels, which there are 20, I think, or I pretty much read almost all of them. I started reading the series when I was very, very young. Pretty much worked my way through it a few times, and I haven't read it in like 10 years now. This is probably one of the most fun series ever written. It's not amazing, not even close. There's a lot of tropes in here. It's very much boy growing to manhood, has trials and tribulations, gets really strong, has to fight the baddie. But throughout that, you effectively have a lore, because there's so many books being built up over decades as each consecutive book. There's time skips forward, there's time skips back, sometimes way back in time. There are sci-fi elements in here, dystopian stuff, where we get to find out about where magic came from, and it's not where you think it's from. There are so many elements in this series that make it really, really interesting as you read along. Each individual book is just good. It's a pleasant read. Don't expect like some huge action novel or something, although there is action. There's a lot of, I'll say, philosophy, in the sense that there's a lot of kind of discussion about what does it mean to be good, bad, and this is kind of intrinsically part of the nature of the magic in here, which has to do with order and chaos and the balance between the two of them and those in between. And so it's pretty fascinating. It's especially, there's a lot of stuff that has to do with like engineering. There's some novels where you're dealing with building literally your own nation. So there's a lot happening in this series, and it all starts with this book. So I have them all on Kindle. I had gotten rid of them during my purge, and I'm wondering again how much I feel like, whether or not it's worthwhile to get the entire physical copy series again. So I'm going to reread book one, see how I feel about it. I've got another book here by Andy Remick called The Iron Wolves, The Rage of Kings, book one. It's kind of a cool thing. It's very, very simple, but there's something about it, just the contrast between the white font and the stark darkness and just this cool blade. This one looks to be a pretty big mindfuck. It's effectively, this man is going around trying to bring together these heroes of old, this group of people who had held back these murderous, I think they were orcs, yeah, like a horde of them back in the past. And the expectation is he's going to bring together this group of heroes back to help them with whatever is going bad right now, but they're all messed up. You know, they've become either twisted or cruel or just broken, and they effectively are not what they're expecting, and so there's going to be something more to it. It seems really interesting. Going to check it out. I did get the second book in the Book of Words, so this is the sequel to A Baker's Boy, which I have already reviewed if you want to check it out. I wasn't too keen on my reread of The Baker's Boy, to be honest, but I figured I might as well just give it a shot, book two, and give it a chance to actually develop itself and see if I enjoy it more. So I am going to check that out. I did get more of the books in Raymond E. Feist's Riff-War Saga. So I do have Magician Apprentice, Magician Master. I have read Magician Apprentice and reviewed it on the channel. So these are the next three books in this series, but there's so many. There's like 25 books in this saga. It just keeps on going at different time periods, following different characters. It's a crazy amount of detail. Sort of like the Recluse novels. Just there's tons going on there. And last but not least, we have The Last Dragon Lord by Joanne Burton. This was a book I read a long time ago as well, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's a much simpler novel. It's much more romancy. It's much more about what it is to love and live for a very long time and be alone and effectively be a magical creature person in a world that's kind of your race is dying out, and what it is to exist and deal with that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. I don't remember all the deets, but it is very romancy. So if you're someone who likes magic, dragons, and romance, check it out. Bring out the fire in you. And that's it. 23 new books. The bookcase is going to finally be filled out a little bit more. It has a stark look to it. A stark look. I have actually filled it out with a little bit of a wood carving that my girlfriend got me for my birthday. It's actually Spirited Away. It's a little girl going over the bridge. For those of you who haven't watched Spirited Away, you should. It's one of my favorite Ghibli films. I love Ghibli. I should do actually more reviews. I think I've done a review a long time ago of Princess Mononoke, but I should do Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away, especially Howl's Moving Castle. I just love Howl's Moving Castle. I have it tattooed on me, and it's one of my mini obsessions. Kind of when I'm feeling down, I watch Spirited Away or Howl's Moving Castle. It's just what I do. It's how I handle my stress. So this is super, super cool. I did get actually a really cool poster. I think I showed it on one of my older videos. Oh God. But I got a frame for it. So we got a really cool Wheel of Time quote. Ages come and past. The wheel turns. So we framed that up. It's really fun. So that's pretty much what's going on with me. Obviously, I will be having more and more reviews coming out. There has been a slight little hiatus there, but I will try to pump out more stuff. I'm in the process of reading book 2 of the Lamplighter novel, so The Foundling's Tale, actually. So this is Factotum book 3. I have done a review of book 1, Foundling, and right now I'm reading book 2. So as soon as I'm done that, I've forgotten how heavy in terms of content and detail there is. It is sort of all done in a British slang, like old dialect as well, so it's a little bit rougher to read. I don't know how it's considered a YA. I mean, it is in certain senses made for younger audiences, but there's so much information and random details and weird names and descriptions that, I mean, especially unless you're British effectively, are really strange. Yeah, but it's fun. It's super fun. It's I think one of the most underrated books that are out there, just in terms of the scope that the author was trying to aim at. Unfortunately didn't get there because he just made the trilogy and let it go after that, which still depresses me to this day, but it's worth a read. And that's it. That's my little book haul, my little thoughts on used bookstores. If you are someone living in Montreal and want to open up a store, come on, we need more used books here. It's really sad that everything's gone away, but if you happen to be in the Toronto area or around-ish there and can make the trip up, I definitely recommend it. There were so many used bookstores and they were really, really great, and I want this to keep going. It would be nice. I mean, I think as time goes on, eventually used bookstores are just going to keep on fading. I think the only way to really, really maintain them is to mesh them in to other stuff. So I haven't seen it yet, but I've definitely heard of people who are doing, let's say you have a cafe and it also has a used bookstore inside. Other things like that, just meshing them together so that you're bringing in money, that hopefully the used books are not your primary source of income, but you'll be able to have them, and so it creates this really interesting, fun vibe. I think more and more people are kind of pushing back against the whole traditional chic cafe place, and they want a much more naturalistic, minimalist place where they can just be quiet and calm and enjoy nature and enjoy books and just being in the moment. So that's pretty cool, and hopefully we get some of those here in Montreal, please. All right, that's it. I've got nothing else. I will try to get this review to you by the end of the week. I am on a little sort of mini vacay, so I have time to read. I'm gonna blow through this book as fast as I can and bring it to you. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the website, details.ca if you feel like it. If not, it's cool. Enjoy your day. Farewell.